Hello and welcome to the Dive Line. Today we're doing something slightly different. We're not doing our usual podcast. We're doing a destination guide. It's something that we've thought about for a while, and to join us on this first one is Bryan Horn from Dive Curacao, who's going to tell us all about Curacao, not just for diving, but as a complete destination resort for families. So welcome and good morning, a bright and early morning to Bryan.
Good morning from Curacao.
Morning, Bryan.
How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing great. Thank you very much for joining us nice and early, because I know it's crack of dawn where you are. So thank you for doing that. So I think the first question on a lot of people's minds will be, where is Curacao?
Where's Curacao? Curacao is located approximately 40 miles north of Venezuela. I'm just going to pull up a map so you can actually see it. There we go, guys. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. So as you can see here, we're just north of Venezuela, where you see the 74. And if I zoom out a little bit further, you're actually going to start to appreciate where Curacao really is.
Oh, okay.
Curacao, all right. So Curacao is located about, as I said, about 40 miles north of Venezuela. And we're also located about 12 degrees north latitude. So we're really in the southern part of the Caribbean, and it's actually called the Dutch Caribbean. The reason for that is because we're located right in between Aruba here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more because your screen is, yeah, so there you go. So you can see Aruba here. This is Curacao, and this is Bonaire. So we're located right in the heart of the ABC Islands, literally. And
so if we big island, Bryan?
I'm sorry?
Is it a big island?
Yeah, it is. I'm going to zoom in a little bit further. So you can really see the big difference between the three islands. We're the largest of the three islands. We're approximately from tip to tip, approximately, I would say, about 60 kilometers long from, as I said, tip to tip. And at the narrowest point is about 5 kilometers. So it's a pretty big island in the grand scheme of things. And the most important part here is that the largest residential, or the largest place where you'll find people is right on the southeastern side of the island. If you can follow my mouse here, basically you're looking at everything inside of this circle here. Everything on the outside of that is really not very well populated. You're going to find a lot of nature on either end of the island. In fact, if you go all the way to the east side of the island, there's approximately, I can't remember the actual square kilometers, but it represents about a third of the island, or an eighth of the island, sorry, and that's all private. And it's, if I zoom in a little bit further, so this section right here is all private, from here all the way down to here.
Is it yours?
All the way, I wish. But what that does is that this is all private land. There's a story behind that we can go into later if you like. But the reality is, all along this shoreline here, all the way to the east point of the island, is completely undeveloped. As you can see, there's nothing there. And what that does is that provides a just magnificent reefs to dive along.
Fantastic. Bryan, let me ask you a question about your location. Everybody knows that there is a hurricane season in the Caribbean, but now I see how far south Curacao actually is. Are you outside of the hurricane belt?
We are.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Basically, at the end of the day, Craig, we've got 365 days of sun. There's very little storms that are going on around Curacao. And the majority of the hurricanes head north. We can call it along the Windward Islands. And they tend to head north, or they tend to head north across the Caribbean towards like Honduras and Mexico and so on and so forth. They rarely split off, and they rarely come south. We do get some tropical storms as a result, but at the end of the day, we've been hurricane free for pretty much forever. I think there's only been one hurricane that ever slightly touched Curacao, but that was many, many years ago.
So it really is a 365-day-a-year destination.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our average rainfall is like 22, maybe 25 centimeters a year. We're getting a little bit more because of global warming these days, but the reality is, again, you're pretty much guaranteed sun 365 days a year.
So now we know it's safe to get to, and you've got sunshine. How do we get there?
That's a great question. There's so many different direct flights out of Curacao or to Curacao. You're looking at, coming out of Europe, you're looking at flights coming out of Schiphol, whether it be TUI or whether it be KLM. There was, before lockdown, there was flights coming out of Frankfurt and Dusseldorf, which was very, very convenient. But we have regular flights out of North America as well. Direct flights coming out of Miami, Newark, and also JFK, and then Toronto, and also Montreal. So it's very, very budget friendly. I mean, the average flights maybe somewhere in the region of 500 US coming out of the States, higher or lower, of course, depending on the deals. And out of Schiphol, I mean, I've seen a range of prices anywhere from, 500 euros to 1,000 euros.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's only 250 euros. I think we looked the other day from Schiphol.
There you go.
That will go up probably, but, at the moment, as soon as we can travel and safe to do so, that's pretty cheap.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's very convenient. With these direct flights, or even a hub like Miami, like they come out of Toronto or Montreal and land in Miami, easy transfer out. I mean, it's a very, very convenient, low cost destination to get to. Average.
So clearly it's easy to get to from wherever you are in the world because of the transport networks and the hubs that you can fly to. What's it like staying on the island as far as cost is concerned? Can you give us a couple of examples, Bryan, of maybe a budget end and a mid-range, higher end option?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to pull up a couple of accommodations here that are going to be very, really well known. First of all, let's talk about like an all-inclusive as an example. A lot of people like all-inclusives, and I'm just going to pull up a couple pictures here.
So this is quite appropriate, actually, Bryan, because if I was going to come to Curacao, I'd bring my family, and I'm the only driver that in the family, so my family would need something to do. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a moment, the other things that are available on Curacao, but an all-inclusive would suit a family like mine. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's the great thing about all-inclusives is that, the dive shop, as you can see here, is located number one, it's right on property. And number two is that you can hop right off the dock and you're into 2 and actually 3 world-class dive sites, right from the dock. And then on top of that, when you have a family, kids, like the all-inclusive Sunscape has got a kids club. And I think that is fabulous, where you can put the kids into the kids club, and they've got certain activities that are already age-based. So for teenagers, they've got bungees, they've got rock climbing, they've got like different types of water sports that they've organized. For the little kids, they've got, different activities as well. And they've also got free shuttles downtown, so you can do some shopping as well. So it kind of covers a whole range of activities. And from a price standpoint, because it is all inclusive, it really fits a lot of different budgets. And you can go high end. Of course, at Sunscape, there's the Sun Club, which is a little higher cost. It's got a private pool, private bar, things like that. Or you can go more into general population, if you will, for a lower cost vacation. Sunscape is very, very ideal for a lot of budgets, and from a pricing standpoint, it really is like a low cost option when it comes down to it, for like an all-inclusive package.
So what sort of idea, as a rough guide for a 2-week holiday in the summer in an all-inclusive like that for a family, what do you reckon? Sort of $3,000-$4,000?
Well, oddly enough, and thanks for bringing it up, we're actually running a special right now that you can book by May 25th, and it's $1,372 a person.
Wow.
As you can see right there. And that includes, you can double that, but that includes 7 days of accommodation, 5 days of diving, 6 days of shore diving. There's non-diver rates as well. Non-diver rate, you can basically deduct about $500 bucks US. But that includes $200 worth of room credits and room upgrade, donation to coral restoration, and also a free antigen test as well.
Sorry, Bryan, a free what test?
Free antigen test. So right now, because of COVID and whatnot, we're trying to set up packages that are really geared towards pulling out all the stops and making you feel absolutely 100% comfortable in coming, and knowing that you can return, because everything is confined to the resort right now because of the current situation. But even without that situation in hand, we're still looking at free antigen tests basically for the rest of the year. That's a sponsor by the dive operator and also by Dive Travel Curacao that we're looking after for the guests.
I mean, that's a really reasonable price, isn't it, for such a fantastic destination? I mean, one of the destinations behind us as well. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
With the cheap flights as well. But what about a budget cost? Where can people go for that kind of thing?
Yeah, so what I would recommend would be All West Apartments. And All West Apartments is one of those places where diving freedom really was born. Now, maybe I'm stealing something from one of the other destinations. So All West Apartments, and the reason I bring this up is because of the fact that All West Apartments is really one of those places that it's
probably somewhere where we'd go as if it was just me and Craig going diving on a 2-week holiday, or when you invite us over free of charge. That's the sort of place we'd go to, because we don't need an all-inclusive. We just need a bed to sleep in and go diving for 8 hours a day.
Well, right. I mean, we have a lot of clients come in from especially the Netherlands and Germany and England, that all they require is a bed to sleep in, a vehicle to drive, and to have access to tanks, whether it be DIN or by international. The reality is that everything is there on property. You pull your truck back up, you load up your tanks, and you've already set your agenda for the day to do, 5 dives a day as an example, and you head out on the road. You've already packed a lunch and got dinner ready, and there's barbecues outside. There's great sunsets, as you saw in the picture. So really, there's no limit. There's complete freedom. So this is why I say, like, it really is the home to dive freedom, because of the fact that you got nothing to worry about. You just land, load up your tanks and go.
So summer 2021, what sort of pricing is the apartments?
Right now we're running a special at $675 a person, and that's a book by April 31st, and that includes your complete package. Wow. So that's your vehicle, that is your apartment, and that's 6 days of unlimited diving. You can upgrade that to boat diving if you like. Once again, we're throwing in 1% for coral reef restoration. We're also including the free antigen test, upgradable to the PCR test if needed. And those are travel dates up from now till December 31st.
That's fantastic. I mean, that even includes the car to have a mooch around the island. We'll talk about the island in a moment. What
absolutely.
Are the accommodation rooms like? Is that single rooms, double rooms? If it was me and Jim, we'd want a different setup to a family. So
right.
What's the option there?
That price is the starting price at $675, and that includes a studio apartment, which is 2 beds. You can push them together if you really want to get snuggly. You also have a full kitchen. Like we're talking about, everything is included in the kitchen, bathroom, of course, and a balcony with sea view. Every apartment at All West includes a sea view. So I think if you want that to really be a budget, the studio apartment is the best deal. However,
to be honest, I'm just looking at that. So $675, 250 quid flight, or 250 euro flight at the moment. $675 to stay there. You're talking under £1,000 English pounds to go and stay there for a week with everything done apart from your food.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that if you want to upgrade that to a little bit more luxury, let's say, there's junior suites available, or junior apartments that are then sorry, there's a full kitchen, living room, and a bathroom, and a 1-bedroom. If you want to upgrade that to a 2-bedroom, you can do that as well. So we can accommodate, like All West can accommodate like a full range of either group or families or individuals. It really depends on.
That's fantastic. I think that's just so economical, especially in these times when we want to get people to places like Curacao, off the beaten path, not the usual for us, Red Sea and places like that. Get someone out to come and see you guys. I mean, look at the picture behind me and behind Craig. Who wouldn't want to go there for like £1,000?
Exactly.
Bryan, we're going to talk about the diving side later on at the end of this, but just a quick question whilst we're talking about the cost of apartments. What about for those people that don't have their own dive gear, or even if you do have your own dive gear, obviously you're going to need tanks when no one's going to bring a tank with. So is it easy to rent gear if you're in an apartment there and you haven't got your own gear with you?
Yeah, it's no problem at all. The at All West or any of the places that we've already talked about, whether it be Lions Diver or Sunscape, there's on-site dive shops. So if you need gear or repair or anything that you need, it's completely available at a very reasonable cost.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just before we get on to the diving, and just touching on the all-inclusive that we did earlier on, what else is there to do? Because my family would not stay in an all-inclusive resort all the time. They'd like to get out and about. So it's a two-pronged question, really. Is it safe to go out and about? And if so, what other things and activities are there to do? Are there cultural or historical tours that they could go on, churches you could visit, or, I'd like to maybe get on things like ATVs, and I like trekking around and that kind of thing. Can you do all that there?
Yeah, absolutely. So remember what I said is there's free shuttles into downtown. Right outside of Sunscape or any of the major resorts, there's always going to be activities that can be scheduled. You can schedule things through Dive Travel Curacao as well. And it can be a range of activities. It can be anything from ATVing, as you see here, to heading to the beaches, doing some snorkeling trips, heading to see some historical monuments. What you're seeing here is an old fort that dates back into like the 1600s. That is still there, and you can do tours there. There's historical tours. There's catamaran tours. There's sailing trips. It's such a colorful downtown, and it's so recognizable. And that's the reason that, you know, that's the signature photo for Curacao.
They call it the pontoon bridge, do they call that, if I remember right?
Yeah, it's the Queen Emma Bridge, and it is a pontoon bridge. It swings only on one axis, so that when ships come in, the whole thing moves on one movement. And it's just one of those fabulous places that you can sit, have a beer, watch the bridge open and close, watch the big ships come in or out. And we also can set up harbor tours because it's the largest inland port in the Caribbean, which is the central hub for the Caribbean for all cargo coming in and out of the Caribbean. So it's a pretty diverse island. Okay, guys, so what you're looking at here is Fort Nassau. It's one of the more upscale restaurants out here on Curacao, but it's for good reason, because it actually overlooks the town of Willemstad.
Look at that view.
I know, right? So amazing sunsets up there. You've got amazing views as well, especially when the sun goes down and all the lights from the surrounding area, including Willemstad, are shown up. When cruise ships are in, you know, of course, all the cruise ship lights are on, so that adds a little bit of ambiance as well. It's truly one of those places, historical places as well, because it is based on an old fort that again goes back into the 1600s. So, you know, you're getting a combination of everything, not only just fantastic culinary experience, but also a fantastic view and also a peek into history of what it was like.
Hey, I can't wait for you to take us there, Bryan, and try out that cuisine. But just as you mentioned, the cuisine, type of food is it? You know, is it like mainly a seafood diet out there? I know it's important to a few people to understand and know what the cuisine is like. Right.
So to answer that question honestly would be to give you an understanding or an appreciation of how Curacao is made up. Yeah. There is over 50 nationalities here on Curacao. It's not a typical Caribbean island. So our diet here or the choices on menu can range anywhere from eclectic to local to really standard fare, you know. So you can have something really special like Creole or local dishes, like really like 200-year-old dishes, or you can have like modern types of culinary experiences where, you know, I can take you, and maybe I will, depending on, you know, how you are. But brisket. I don't know if you're familiar with brisket or not, but it's a very, it's one of my favorites, maybe because I'm from North America, but I mean, brisket is one of those fabulous pieces of meat that, you know, you just kind of like salivate. And so you've got all of that. You've got great wine selections, certainly a different beer selection, or you know, Heineken is always available. Bright is always available. I don't know if you know what that is, but Amstel products, you know, and then there's some Caribbean stuff as well. So we've got a very broad range. We've got influence from Argentina, from Brazil. We've got influence from North America, South America, or other parts of South America. Colombia as an example. There's a large Colombian contingent here on the island. And there's also a broad range of Chinese dishes as well that have now taken a very Curacao type of flavor, mind you. But, so everything is here, honestly.
So a bit of, you've got everything that you could think of, really.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Right.
So just back to these other pictures then, Bryan, what some of the other activities, and obviously it's safe to go out and about and do these activities, otherwise you wouldn't have them.
No, absolutely. I mean, Curacao is a very, very safe destination. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys know as well as I do that, common sense needs to be put into the equation at a certain moment. Where you don't leave your passport in the vehicle, your cell phone in the vehicle, so on and so forth when you're out diving.
Common sense anywhere, isn't
common
it?
sense, right? As long as I've lived here, there's never been a real threat put together. So, you go to public beaches like this one that you're seeing, really classic shot, but that's real. I mean, I can see that pretty much any day of the week. Another shot of what's that?
Don't show off.
No. I'm just telling you that's what it is. And these beaches are all available to shore dive as well.
Bryan, you just mentioned the D word, and I think Fridge and I are absolutely sold on the island. It looks fantastic. And as Fridge mentions, we both have families that don't dive, but for us too, it's all about the diving. And right behind you, it says a must-dive destination. So
yes,
let's talk about what our audience are really into, and that's the diving side of things. I'm just going to share my screen now. And so, Bryan, tell us about the diving.
Craig, I could pretty much go on and on about the diving here in Curacao. It's so spectacular, but, pretty much any destination can really say that. The great things about diving here in Curacao is the access to the water. Our fringing reefs start, literally about 50 feet from shore. So there's, with over 70 different dive sites available, 39 of those at least are accessible by shore. And then you also have like some spectacular world-class boat diving as well on either ends of the island, and lots of points in between. It's a very, very diverse island, and whether you're on the east point or the west point, you're going to experience a completely different dive. And the reason largely for that is because of the fact that, you've got of the trade winds and also the position of the island. So where you would find a lot of soft corals on the east end of the island, and staghorns, elk horns, that type of thing. On the east end of the island, you're going to find a lot of big boulder star corals, lots of layers as you head west. So really, at the end of the day, you're looking at a very, very biodiverse island where the reefs are completely different from one end of the island to the other. So you can really, really enjoy yourself.
Bryan, looking at these images showing on the video here, which is just spectacular, look at the clarity of that water. It looks like a photographer's dream, whether you're into macro or wide angle, pelagic, or there's going to be a fantastic photo opportunity for whatever type of underwater photography you're into by the look of it.
Absolutely. Curacao is largely a macro island. And when I say that, that means either close up or wide angle. There's spectacular reefscapes that can be captured. And when you talk about pelagics, there are some, definitely. Over the years, I've seen whale sharks here, I've seen hammerheads, I've seen reef sharks. I've seen humpback whales, you know, things like that. But I can't guarantee any of that. Nobody can. But I can guarantee you a lot of the smaller stuff here on the island, whether it be a frogfish or whether it be a trunkfish, you know, whatever the small stuff that you're looking for, you can pretty much find it here. And as I said, the wide angle reefscapes, whether it be fish or bait balls, we've got plenty of photos with bait balls, as you saw probably in the video as well. That, you know, it's massive when you're inside of that bait ball. It's breathtaking. You know, there's never really a dull moment. Any dive is going to be a different dive from the previous dive. A lot of destinations that I've been to, you know, you tend to see, you know, it's the same dive over and over and over again. You know, and I'm not throwing stones at anything. Like, there's a lot of great diving that I've done over the years, but the reality is that here on Curacao, it doesn't matter whether you're getting in the water on the east end, middle, or west. It's a completely different dive every single time that you get in the water.
It looks absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? I mean, really fantastic. So I noticed there as well, is there coral restoration as well?
Yes, absolutely. Dive Travel Curacao is a major sponsor of coral restoration. You know, all 1% of our profits go back into coral restoration on an annual basis, but there's also many other sponsors that should be acknowledged as well, local sponsors as well as international sponsors. And the thing is with coral restoration is that it's really a passionate topic of ours because of the fact that we need our reefs in order to provide you that awesome experience every single time that you come to Curacao. We need to have healthy reefs. There's no question about it. And our partners and our collaborators, whether it be on the citizen science side of it or on the science side of it, like we have collaborations with on-site marine biologists and so on and so forth that are taking coral restoration in a different path where it's called sexual reproduction versus coral restoration, which is asexual. And really the difference is that one is, you know, you're taking fragments from the reef and you're putting them into nurseries, you're growing those back, and then you're outplanting those, whereas the other side of it is you're collecting spawn from spawning cycles and then putting them in and letting them settle on tiles and then replanting them back. And they can use them back and forth to create stronger, more resilient corals as well. So I think it's really, really important to support that. And as like when you come or anybody comes, they can really get involved in coral restoration from the standpoint of taking a course and also participating in restoration dives where you can help, you know, clean the nurseries. If there's outplanting going on, you can participate in that, learn how to outplant, you know, things of that nature. So you can really get involved. It's not just about...
Sorry, Brian. I think to be honest, most responsible divers are looking for destinations that do a little bit extra and do something for the environment or the ecology to offset what we're doing.
Yeah, we all have to take the longer view, don't we? Every one of us, you know, whether you're in whatever type of tourism, but as divers, it's something we're clearly very focused on. I would love to go and do that dive. I would have a real sense of satisfaction of if, you know, just one or two of my dives was helping, I would feel like I've made a little bit of a contribution. I'd love to come and do that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, you guys are touching on a very interesting point, because I think that is really the trend that we're seeing. You know, when we were coming up through the dive industry or learning how to dive, it was just about getting in the water and going for a dive. You know, 30 minutes this way, 30 minutes back. You know, as we became professionals, it was something else. Maybe you picked up a camera or a video camera, whatever. But today, you know, the trend that we're seeing anyways, and I think this is not just exclusive to what we're seeing, is that we're seeing more divers dive for a purpose, if you will. They want to come and participate in something in order for it to become meaningful. Diving is just not diving anymore. It's getting in the water and doing something while you're underwater as well. Not just
ecotourism, I think is
ecotourism, sustainable tourism. I mean, absolutely.
And I think that's something you can't do on a liveaboard, is it? You have to be shore diving. You have to be in a resort and doing that kind of thing from a resort like Curacao. You can't, if we were to go to the Red Sea, it's just literally diving.
Well, yeah. I mean, the places that we've already touched on, like Lions Dive and also Sunscape, they've got core restoration going on right outside the resort. So you can, just on a shore dive, you can actually see the end result, if you will, of 5 years of work of rebuilding the shallow water reef system, where you'd see like massive colonies of staghorn and elkhorn coral. I mean, I think that's fabulous. When I was started here 15 years ago, we didn't have that, and now we look at it, and I can be personally proud of the work that has been going on by these skilled people to rebuild the shallow water reef system. I think it's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, really impressive that the island's taking the long-term view. What about wrecks? Let's talk about, because you've got some very well-known wrecks, Bryan. Tell us about the most popular and the most famous.
The most popular and the most famous, of course, is the Superior Producer. My real, I mean, I love wreck diving. I came from Canada, and diving in Canada and the cold water were always wrecks were. That was really the only thing that you could dive on. And then to discover the Superior Producer when I came here, and then to learn the real story about the Superior Producer, it's such a beautiful, beautiful wreck that it's got almost 50 years, a half century of growth on it, and it's such an easy dive. And the reason I say easy is because the top of the superstructure is about 73 feet. The keel is buried at 105 feet. So it's not a technical dive.
So it's a max 30-meter dive all the way to the bottom. So it's achievable for anyone over just open water.
Absolutely. And the cargo holds are wide open. So there's no, significant amount of penetration, or there's, you don't have to run lines or, anything like that. It's a very, very easy dive. You can either do it by shore or you can do it by boat. My personal favorite is by boat because you can drift it, but you can also shore dive it too. And so you can turn this, 100-foot wreck or 30-meter wreck dive that you normally only have 17 minutes of no deco on it, and you can turn it into like an hour and a half dive if you wanted to, depending on how good you are on air, because your dive back is going to be on the reef, so you can really, really enjoy your time underwater, not only seeing the wreck and enjoying the wreck, but also coming back onto this fabulous reef system, shallow water reef system, and do a really beautiful hour and a half dive.
Something we haven't touched on yet is obviously it's crystal clear waters. You can see that there's some great wrecks and reefs and marine life. What's the water temperature like?
The water temperature varies, of course, but you can pretty much guarantee yourself somewhere in the region of 25 to 28 degrees, 100 feet of visibility on average, depending on winds, currents, et cetera. You may have bad visibility at 60 feet, but certainly not 5 feet.
I like
fabulous.
5 feet. Bad
viz is 60 foot. I mean, that's the bad biz.
Yeah, that is bad biz. It could be a little cloudy at 60 feet, we might prefer the 100 foot.
Even at 100 meters on the wreck, for most people, it's going to be a 3 mil or a maximum 5 mil suit.
Yeah, I mean, I think a 5 mil might be a little extreme. I think that's probably more along the lines of what our local dive masters wear in the winter months. And believe me, we do have winter, but that's winter for us, right? I mean, we're accustomed to it of really hot temperatures. So at the end of the day, you're looking at somewhere. Most people like yourselves are going to come down and dive maybe a full 3 mil, maybe a shorty. Really nobody ever dives in a 5 unless you're a very, very petite person. I've seen it, even a dry suit or a summer dry, but they're, largely, no. I mean, a shorty is probably enough. But speaking of that, guys, I would really recommend anybody that's coming down to bring a open heel fins and booties. And the reason for that, if you're shore diving, and that's primarily where I'm going with this, is that most of we're a coral island. Curacao is a coral island. So when you speak about the beaches and the access into the water, you're looking at probably some sharper edges, things like that. Of course, we've got sea urchins as well. So you want to really guard yourself and wear booties to enter the water. And that's where the open heel and the booties come from.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
I mean, that sounds absolutely fantastic, Bryan, and certainly somewhere myself and Craig want to come and dive. I think Craig's actually dived there before, I haven't, but it's somewhere I'd like to go that's just a little bit different. And obviously with a family, I guess we could come to somebody like you who could tailor the holidays to suit. That's the whole reason we're speaking to you, really, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the fact is, guys, I'm local here. I know a few people, you could say. We've got very good contact with the majority of the resorts and the dive operators here on island, and we can assist and guide anybody for an extremely awesome holiday here on Curacao.
So how's the best way for anyone to get in touch with you? Right next to Fridge's right shoulder, you can see Travel Dive Curacao. Is that the website?
No, the website is www.divecuracao.info. And you can also dive travel Curacao or CuracaoDiveTravel.com, CuracaoDiveTravel.com. You can access it through there, or just type in Dive Curacao to your Google search engine, and we're going to be there right at the top of the list. We're very easy to find. If you're looking for Curacao diving, we're going to be there as well. So it's, we're set up in a way that is quite unique because we're tied in not only to diving to Curacao, but also the accommodation and any sort of activities that you're looking for, whether it be for yourself or your family. We know where to go and how to get there, and we'll make sure you're well looked after.
Yeah, well, Fridge and I have known you for a while now, and one thing that's immediately identifiable, easy for me to say, is your love of the island, and more importantly, your knowledge of the island. If anyone knows how to put a trip together, you're the go-to guy. We've learned that, and we can't wait to come out and see you. We're just one of the most fabulous islands in the Caribbean at crazy cheap prices compared to a lot of places.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you saying that. We do our best. We are very passionate. And we've teamed up and partnered up with the best operators and hotels and activities on the island. We only recommend what is going to give you the best experience possible, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We don't want you to come to Curacao. We want you to come back to Curacao. And I think that's the most important part to this whole equation.